Can today's woman have it all and do it all? You'll get some answers today on Excellent Living. We are re-airing Cheryl Martin's interview with Lois Evans. She was best known as the wife of Dr. Tony Evans, host of the national radio broadcast, The Urban Alternative, airing on more than 1,400 radio outlets daily. Lois transitioned to heaven in December of 2019. She left a legacy of a modern-day Proverbs 31 woman. Lois was a pastor's wife, the senior vice president of the Urban Alternative, a mother, and a grandmother. Here's Cheryl to get the dialogue started with Lois Evans.
It's an absolute honor and privilege to have you on Excellent Living. You are definitely an example to follow, and I have been watching your life, I would say, for at least 30 years. I still remember the first time I saw you at an event in Chicago with your husband. I still remember the blouse that you wore because you were dressed so elegantly. And every time I see you, you are just impeccable and you are a beautiful woman inside and out. So first of all, thank you for being on the program.
Thank you, Cheryl, for having me on. It's good to see you as well.
Thank you. You have been in the spotlight with your husband ever since the Urban Alternative debuted in 1982. The impact that this ministry has had, did you expect it?
I did, living with Tony Evans. That's what I admired about him when I met him. I knew he had potential. I saw his drive. I know he was committed to the Lord just like I was. And that's what attracted, one of the main attractions was, ooh, this guy really loves Jesus and is going to do something for the Lord. But living with him, it's, and his vision and the passion God's put in his heart has kind of stretched me. Because things he said 37 years ago, I have watched it become reality in our ministry and in our lives. So it's been a growing experience for me and stretching experience for me.
You mentioned when you first met him, you knew that he had the drive and commitment to the Lord. Let's talk about that because you grew up in another country in Guyana.
Yes.
How in the world did you meet Tony Evans, who grew up in Baltimore? How did the two of you connect?
Amazing. Just a God thing. I grew up in a Christian home. A little story behind this. And at the age of 15, I made a commitment for ministry. I knew God had called me to ministry. What kind of ministry and what path, I wasn't sure, but I knew God wanted me to be in full-time ministry.
And how long had you been saved?
Been saved probably at the age of 11 or 12.
Okay.
You know, I grew up in a Christian home, but didn't accept Christ for a while. In fact, my parents got a little worried. Like, you know, when is this girl going to accept Jesus? But I did. And at the age of 15, made that commitment for ministry and started praying then. I had such a passion to do the Lord's work. And I said, Lord, I do want to get married, but so you've got to bring somebody in my life that really has same passion or stronger passion, because I don't want to have to drag anyone around.
You said that at age 15?
Yes, and my mom started praying and Dad started praying for me. In fact, my mom started praying for us when we were in her womb. That's something I recommend to a lot of mothers. But my parents joined me in prayer, and then Tony came to South America because of an evangelist that my parents knew. B. Sam Hart. He's gone home to be with the Lord now. But my parents knew him, knew of the event that was coming to South America. And so my dad was just being courteous to this guy that was coming before the evangelist to do prep work for the crusade. And I was working with the crusade. I was singing at the crusade. And so we connected that way. We just, one thing I left out, Dad invited him for dinner. And Tony loves food. And my mom was on sabbatical, and so I was the cook that day. And Tony never forgot my fried chicken. So I said, did you fall in love with my fried chicken or me? But that's how we kind of connected, met serving the Lord. And I saw this gentleman's passion and love for the Lord. And over the period of the crusade, we just kind of fell in love. It just kind of happened naturally, both of us being driven for the Lord. And there was a connection made as it relates to our personal relationship.
How long was he there?
Just for a summer, 2 or 3 months. And he said he knew, when you hear Tony's stories, that I saw him and just couldn't control myself. But
you can set the record straight today.
Oh, I really do. But again, it took a little while. But after the summer, though, we knew that there was some kind of connection there. He came back to America because he was in Bible college. And he said, I'm going to come back and we're going to get engaged. And I said, sure. And I carried on my life. But little did I know that God would bring someone all the way from a place I'd never heard of in my life. I heard of New York, but not of Baltimore, Maryland. But that's how the Lord works, He kind of puts things together when we set our commitment to Him,
I can only imagine. I have thought of that story and have said, that has to really encourage your story of how God was intimately involved with bringing you and your husband together for His glory, has to encourage a lot of singles. Here you are in South America.
Right, yeah.
And God was committed to bringing you together. That has to encourage singles. There are singles who get frustrated because there are no single guys in their church.
Sure. And I generally encourage them, you stay in God's will. And God knows where your mate is, if that's His will for your life. If that's His sovereign plan for your life, He knows where they are in this big world He has made. It was not my plan or my desire, or I did not determine who it should be.
You didn't pursue him?
Not at all. Now, he would say I did, but but I did not. I just let it work out. And then I included my parents in the decision. Puppy love is a different thing from real love. And I told my parents of my interest in him. I said, could this be the guy that we've all been praying for? Because he's so committed to Jesus. But then again, we didn't know him, though, or his family. But again, I had involved my parents in the decision-making, which is biblical as well. Your parents need to be involved in who supposedly the Lord has brought into your life. So I involved wisdom and a lot of prayer. And again, the evangelist that brought him, my parents knew, so we made that connection that way. But I just want to encourage singles that while you're waiting on your change to come, God has a plan for your life. It's not a surprise to Him where you are right now. So leave it in His hand as you do His will.
Now, as a result of you being very clear that God had brought you together, I want to add one little piece. While you knew that God had called you to ministry,
yes,
there was also one caveat. You said, Lord, but there's one role I really don't want.
At 15, you tell the Lord a lot of stuff. And I said, Lord, service for you, no problem. I grew up in Christianity. I grew up in something that I was accustomed to and used to. It came natural. My whole family was in ministry. So I said, Lord, anything but a pastor's wife. Because I saw my pastor's wife, and what I saw as a kid, I wasn't happy with. She seemed lonely. I heard people talking about her. People just weren't respecting her, weren't giving her value. And I said, no, I can't do that. But the Lord has a great sense of humor. He always puts you in places where He has to be your supernatural help. Tony said that too, though. Under the starlit skies, and he would say as he was talking all that stuff, all that jive, he said too, God's called me to be an evangelist. I too am not going to be a pastor. So I said, this match has got to be made in heaven, But further down in our ministry journey, after college and seminary, Tony's last year in seminary, God changed his mind. God changed his passion. And he said, Lois, I really feel like God's called me to pastor. And I thought he was really kidding because we had discussed this for so long. And he said, no, I don't think I want to just fly in and fly out of places and tell people and pastors what to do. And I am not really experiencing that growth and stretching that the Lord wants for me. I want to invest in people's lives. I want to walk with people from salvation through their discipleship. And so, I had some major adjustments to make.
And the Lord changed your heart.
Yes, over a period of time. I knew that God had called me. That never changed. And I sure love me some Tony Evans. And I knew Tony and I are very good friends, not just husband and wife. We were just best friends. And I knew Tony had my back and had my interest in mind. I knew Tony knew that I was struggling with this adjustment to being her, this lady I saw as a little girl. So I self-inflicted some things on me, I have to admit that. So the first 2 years of ministry, I struggled because we started with 10 people in our home, and expectations that were put upon me in those early years, 37 years ago, I did not have those gifts. And they hadn't manifested themselves. I had them, but they hadn't manifested themselves. I hadn't grown to be a counselor and a teacher and a Bible study teacher and things like that. And those were expectations of people, valid ones, because they needed the Lord. But I needed Him too. So the first 2 years, as I served, I struggled. And my counselor was Tony and the Lord. We both prayed about it, and Tony, after he gave his Bible study message, had to give me one to kind of encourage me and hold me up. And then the second year of my struggle, as we continued our Bible study, started our church, I came home and said, Tony, I don't think I can do this. I can help you with my skills and gift sets that God's given me, but the things people are asking me to do, like speak Greek and Hebrew, that's not going to happen, Doc. Expectations were more than where I was at the time. And when I told him that, he just looked at me and he said, Lois, you can. I just want you to be yourself. And that was a startling reality of Jeremiah 1:5, that God really just wanted me to be me. That does not mean that people would have accepted it and appreciated me being me, but my husband needed the support that God gave me in my giftedness before I was placed in my mother's womb. And I just slipped into being me, which is my degrees in business. And so I am the one that kind of loves the executive and detail and being behind the scenes, making things happen. And I thank the Lord that I married my best friend and somebody that was smart enough to see that, yes, I can be his helpmate because I help him start the church and start the Urban Alternative.
What advice do you give to women who are struggling in that area today? Yeah. You know, there is a lot of comparison among women, whether we are in ministry or not. Some women feeling less than, whether they are a stay-at-home mom, a career woman, a woman in ministry, who is living with all these expectations, maybe expectations from her mother, from friends, from the culture. What do you say to help that woman find herself?
I like to encourage women, and I've actually written the book Seasons of a Woman's Life out of my story and the life of Esther. There's a season for everything. Ecclesiastes 3 talks about that. So whatever season you're in right now, if it's taking care of children, if it's being single, if it's being at home, whatever you are, your barometer's Titus 2:5. Read that, where God wants you to take care of your home, manage your life. And so if it's you've chosen to stay home right now with your children, that's a ministry. I did too. In the early years of our ministry, Tony and I decided I'm going to stay home and take care of my family. So I did ministry from home. So I still use my gifts and my skills, but my priority in that season of life was my 4 kids that I call my church. And so it's hard because you have to educate people around you of what God has told you to do. And you have to trust God that He will bring your fruit in the right season. We have to be confident and grow in the fact that God's got our back. And that takes some time and, again, takes some support.
You're listening to Excellent Living with Cheryl Martin. You just heard an excerpt from Cheryl's earlier interview with Lois Evans, a Renaissance woman who wore many hats while married to Dr. Tony Evans for close to 50 years. Lois transitioned to heaven in 2019. Dr. Tony Evans is best known as a pastor, author, and host of the national radio broadcast, The Urban Alternative. In this interview, she opened up to Cheryl about what made her and Dr. Evans great partners in life and ministry.
You have mentioned, since we've been talking, and it's also in your materials, that your husband, Dr. Tony Evans, is also your best friend. What did the two of you do intentionally? And what have you continued to do? You've been married now more than 40 years. What have you done to maintain such a closeness when both of you are extremely busy?
Communication. Tony and I talk all the time. If it's even just, what are you doing right now? Like he called this morning, are you okay? Did you get there okay? He called last night. So we communicate all the time. And I never felt like I was competing with him. We try to complement each other. We sit regularly and discuss where we are in our call and our passion for ministry. So we kind of allow each other to do what God has called us to do in our church, in the Urban Alternative, and then broader than those ministries. But it's a communication thing. So he hears my heart, I hear his heart. So I would think those are the main things: communication, and we're not going to compete. We're going to complement each other. Yes.
One of the things that I've noticed about you over the years, you are, I would say, a partner, a full partner, not only in the marriage, but also in ministry. Yes. And also, you are a woman of strength.
Thank you.
In your own right. Not only that, the other thing that I've noticed, and I don't always see this, you are also a woman of strength, but utterly feminine.
Thank you.
And you serve on a number of boards. You are the senior vice president of the Urban Alternative. Yes. You are fully utilizing your gifts. You have held the organization, the seminar for the weekend for First Ladies, the Heart for Senior Pastors' Wives. Mm-hmm. You're fully developing all of this. And I admire that, because I think it can be difficult for certain women who know that I bring something to the table too. I have a brain, I have an intelligence, and God wants me to soar. Mm-hmm. You seem to do it well because you're not usurping your husband. Right. Like you said, you're not competing with him. Right. And yet you are effectively doing your role as a woman.
Right. I am really comfortable staying in my lane. And so I stay in Psalms 91 a lot. I work really hard in the midst of all of those activities and responsibilities. I work really hard to stay in the secret place so I can hear in my heart what the Lord wants me to do in the next season or in this season. I like that quiet place, because then his voice gets a little louder. And then I could share with Tony, what God might be saying to me that might be different from the past season, And so that's what's important to me, And then Tony and I talk about it. In the busyness of ministry, I still want to hear God's voice as to what's next in my movement.
Is that the answer then for women who say, how can I find the time and energy to do it all, to take care of my kids, encourage my husband, keep a clean house, and maintain my first love for the Lord?
Right. It's really seasonal. You have to follow the barometer, Titus 2:5. If you could take care of your home, manage your home, take care of yourself, take care of your ministry, it's first the Lord, your personal time with the Lord, and then your family, and then ministry. If you can do all of that, then you could say yes to other things. But if you can't manage that, then you need to stay in that season.
I love what you said in your chapter of the book, Promises, Promises, when you felt a little overwhelmed when your husband first started the church. And you said, because I was in his will, God gave me the ability to get the job done without compromising my priorities.
That's right. That's right. And you'll know that place. I'm not saying that we're not going to get overwhelmed, because when we first started church, I had to do everything. I was a hospitality lady, I was a Sunday school teacher, everything, just to get our ministry going. But what we have to learn is to learn to delegate. We are there to equip the saints to do the work of the ministry, not for us to do it all. So as soon as you see the Lord bring someone in your midst to do ministry as a woman in ministry, you need to start mentoring, coaching, and delegating. So you could then really intentionally get back into your ministry purpose and your ministry vision.
It was God's will for you to be a stay-at-home mom. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give a woman who is equally committed to her family, but she will say, God has called me, even though I have young children, to a career. And she's getting flack from others saying, I don't think you should be doing that. But she got a clear call from the Lord to do that.
Right. I would say to that lady again, Titus 2:5, if you can manage your home and still work, that's fine. If the Lord has released you and given you peace to do that. Because, some ladies can afford help, to be able to accomplish that. So I would say if God has released you, you might want to see if it's part-time now, or if you're a teacher, if it's substituting right now, and full-time could be in another season. Or it might be that you are home right now, but you can still finish your education. You can do education online. You can go to classes for a week. I did things like this. I finished my degree with children because I was able to go and get 3 hours in 1 week. So there's ways for you to still keep growing in what God has put in your heart and what God has put in your passion and what God has kind of instructed you to do. You could still do it. It just has to be managed maybe in a different way, and you'll see the full fruit of it in a different season.
So your entire marriage, you have pledged to constantly grow.
Yes.
And have an active intellect.
Yes. Yes.
Continually.
Yes. Never stop growing. If even you're, like I did church work from home, as I said, because Tony knew I had a business background. So I never stopped growing. No, I finished, as I mentioned, I finished my college with probably 3 kids. And I've gone to seminary. I haven't finished yet. I'm one of those students that take 1 semester a year. But I'm still growing.
One of the things that I've observed over the years when I have had the privilege of hearing Dr. Tony Evans speak, you're usually right by his side. I have admired the fact that when he's been on the road, and I've seen him in different cities, you're usually there, and I'm sure it was at that season of your life when you could leave your children.
Yes.
Was that part of the boundaries in your marriage to safeguard your marriage? Have the two of you talked about, these are things that we're doing to protect, to put guardrails around our relationship?
Oh, definitely. As you said, there was a season when Tony just wanted me to travel. So we probably get my mom to help, or some people we really knew that we felt safe with our kids to help us, because he just had that need for me to be with him.
But I love that example that you were right there.
Yes.
But have you all discussed as a couple, we want our marriage to be strong to the end, so these are things that we deliberately do to guard our marriage?
Definitely. And when I can't go, Tony travels with someone.
Okay.
A gentleman from our ministry, not a lady.
Not another woman.
That will not work for the sister. Another gentleman. So there's always someone with him. If it's not our executive director, then our son travels, if I can't be there.
I see you epitomizing the Proverbs 31 woman inside and out. How important is that? I would say for a woman, even in a marriage, to be concerned about her outer appearance.
Right. Well, I think the Bible talks about that, that we need to take care of ourselves. But then, I have to give credit to, I just grew up in an environment of women, godly women, just making a presentation and not focusing on the presentation, but that's just who they were. I still envision my grandmother coming to just visit us, looking like she was going to church, And so I grew up then with my mom just always taking pride in how she looked, especially going into the house of God was important for them. And my mom would say to me, if you're going to take time to decide what you're wearing to see a human being, what about the King of Kings and Lord of Lords? So that has been kind of instilled in me, to just kind of take care of yourself and take care of the presentation, because you're representing the King.
This has been great. There is so much more that I could say, but just the opportunity to tap into your wisdom.
Thank you.
I will just ask you, what else is left on your to-do list for the glory of God?
Wow, that's a deep question. You know what? I want to know him more. I really want to make sure I'm walking in the path He predestined for my life. Jeremiah 1:5. He had a plan before I was even put in my mother's womb. I want to make sure that I don't miss that plan because of something I want to do. So literally, when I get invitations to do anything, they stay on my desk for a while for the Lord to release me to say yes. My schedule might be open and I could just say yes and fly here and fly there, but is this where you want me to be? Is this where you want me to plant seed? Is this where you want me to make an investment? So at this season in my life, it's always been my desire to be in His plan, but for sure now, because our kids are grown and gone, well, that's debatable, but and so now I could focus in on clearly, what do you want me to do with the rest of the years that you hopefully will give me? And so that's what it is. You know, I just had dinner with one of my mentors that I've had in my life since seminary. And she's a professor's wife and taught Bible studies, traveled all over the world, and somebody that I really, really love. And I asked her, what would you change in your ministry life? And what would you change even now? And I couldn't believe what she said. She said, I would spend more time with the Lord. That was a checkpoint for me. I said, okay, that's it. You know, I am really going to make sure I intentionally spend more time with Him. So for the rest of the years that I have, I really walk in the footsteps that He had predestined for me, for my life.
Lois Evans, thank you so much. Proverbs 31 verse 29 says, many daughters have done well, but you excel them all.
Thank you very much,
That's
Cheryl.
you.
What great insights today from Lois Evans. Her life personified a commitment to Christ and serving alongside her husband for nearly 50 years, the renowned Bible teacher, Dr. Tony Evans. Lois wrote the book, Seasons of a Woman's Life. She transitioned to her heavenly home December of 2019. I'm Doris McMillan, reminding you that excellent living is doing all of life God's way. It's the best way.